Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rechak Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Judith, the first chapter. And as we as we go through the book of Judith, there are some parts in here, all right, which when you look up the book of Judith, a lot of people, historians, scholars try to count it as fiction, right? Because of the the timelines, all right, that are in here. Because there are certain parts in here that don't line up exactly with secular history, but nonetheless, which could be due to a variety of reasons, right? It could be due to some translation or transliteration errors down the line, or even in the recomposition of the different manuscripts, right, across different languages, to try and salvage or piece together the events that transpired, right? So as we go through the book of Judith, we'll try to focus more on the content, right, of the story, right, and the deliverance that the Lord wrought by Judith, and not so much the secular or chronological mismatches with secular history. So, because the Lord had it preserved, this way for a reason. So this is the book of Judith, chapter 1, verse 1. In the 12th year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, who reigned in Nineveh, the great city, in the days of Arphaxad, which reigned over the Medes in Ecbatane, and built in Ecbatane walls round about of stones, hewn 3 cubits broad, and 6 cubits long, and made the height of the wall 70 cubits, and the breadth thereof 50 cubits. So now, a lot of people would say, well, historically Nebuchadnezzar, right? When it says Nebuchadnezzar is referring to Nebuchadnezzar, he didn't reign from Nineveh, but because they say he was a Babylonian, even though Nebuchadnezzar, his father, really the ruling class of the Neo-Babylonian Empire were Assyrians. They'll say, well, they destroyed Nineveh, right? So it doesn't make sense for him to be ruling out of there. Although the book of Judith does mention, all right, that they were Assyrians, it is made to seem as though this is kind of like the Assyrian Empire coming against Israel. But then there are parts in there that mention the captivity, right, of Judah, i.e. the Babylonian captivity and the return from that. So like I said, there's information in there, and then it looks like it's different points in history that are all sort of comprised in here. And for whatever reason that it ended up being translated like that, we don't know the details of it, but we'll deal with the once again the spiritual aspect of the book, right? Because it is exhorting, right, and does have the truth of the scriptures in it nonetheless, right? So we'll deal with that. So continuing in the verse 3, and set the towers thereof upon the gates of it 100 cubits high, and the breadth thereof in the foundation 80 cubits. And he made the gates thereof, even gates that were raised to the height of 70 cubits, and the breadth of them was 40 cubits, for the going forth of his mighty armies, and for the setting in array of his footmen. Even in those days King Nebuchadnezzar made war with King Arphaxad in the great plain, which is the plain in the borders of Ragu. And there came unto him all they that dwelt in the hill country, and all that dwelt by Euphrates and Tigris and Hydaspes and the plain of Arioch, the king of the Elamians. And when you look up the Elamians, it points to the Elamites. And very many nations of the sons of Chilod assembled themselves to the battle. Then Nebuchadnezzar, let me just say that, king of the Assyrians, sent unto all that dwelt in Persia, and to all that dwelt westward, and to all those that dwelt in Cilicia and Damascus and Libanus and Antilibanus, and to all that dwelt upon the seacoast. So basically, everybody in his dominion, his kingdom, and to those among the nations that were of Carmel and Galad, which is Gilead, and the higher Galilee, and the great plain of Esdraelon, and to all that were in Samaria, and the cities thereof, and beyond Jordan unto Jerusalem, and Bethane, and Chelis, and Cades, and the river of Egypt, and Taphnes, and Ramesey, and all the land of Gesem, until ye come beyond Tanis and Memphis, and to all the inhabitants of Egypt, until ye come to the borders of Ethiopia. But all the inhabitants of the land made light of the commandment of Nebuchadnezzar, king of the Assyrians, neither went they with him to the battle. So they basically they shrugged it off, that order that he gave them. For they were not afraid of him. Yea, he was before them as one man, and they sent away his ambassadors. Slack you 1 second. Right, they sent away his ambassadors from them without effect and with disgrace. So they basically just like the messengers he sent, they basically just like, cast them down. It's like, oh, get out of here with that. Therefore Nebuchadnezzar was very angry with all his country, with all this country, and sware by his throne and kingdom that he would surely be avenged upon all those coasts of Cilicia and Damascus and Syria, and that he would slay with the sword all the inhabitants of the land of Moab, and the children of Ammon, and all Judea, and all that were in Egypt, till ye come to the borders of the two seas. So this is setting up, right, the narrative for where Judith eventually comes in. Then he marched in battle array with his power against King Arphaxad in the 17th year. So when he was going to war with this king, he went and called the nations to assemble. They basically said, nah, we ain't doing that. He got pissed and said, all right, so once I'm done with this, y'all are next. So he goes to war with Arphaxad, and he prevailed in his battle, for he overthrew all the power of Arphaxad, and all his horsemen, and all his chariots, and became lord of his cities, and came to Ecbatane, and took the towers, and spoiled the streets thereof, and turned the beauty thereof into shame. So he basically went to the city, the dominion that Arphaxad had, and basically razed it. He destroyed it, brought it down to the ground. He took also Arphaxad in the mountains of Ragu, and smote him through with his darts, and destroyed him utterly that day. So he killed him. So he returned afterward to Nineveh, both he and all his company, of sundry nations, right, diverse nations, being a very great multitude of men of war. And there he took his ease, and banqueted, both he and his army, 120 days. And that brings us to the end of the book of Judith, the first chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodesh. And until next time, Shalom.